Welcome to Crime in Court. This is an update in the Delphi trial. We are reviewing the trial of Richard Allen, Indiana versus Richard Allen, in the homicides of Libby German and Abigail Williams. And we are going to recap 2 days worth of testimony because today, Saturday, November 2nd was a half day, so we'll get to Friday and Saturday. So if you don't mind, please hit that like button as we begin. We are on the defense's case now. They started their case in chief, and we are going to discuss what they did Friday, or who they called to the stand, I should say. So I've been giving you guys recaps and finding particular news stations that are local that have been reporting on this. And I have been using a lot of the same people, but they've given us really good details. So, and I'm sticking with them. So we're going to continue on with Max Lewis he's an anchor from Fox 59 and CBS 4 Indy. All right, so he says this is the lunch update. So he gives us two updates per day. He does one right when they break for lunch, and then he does one right at the end of the day. So you get the morning and the afternoon in two separate threads. So here we go. This is the morning thread. Note, see my other thread for information on the back and forth regarding the videos. There was some back and forth regarding videos, obviously. And they weren't going to, the defense wanted to play some videos of Richard Allen in his cell, basically doing some, exhibiting some odd behavior because he was under severe psychosis. And there was a problem with, for the defense, they couldn't verify the exact date when it was, so the prosecution objected. They figured it out, so they play it on Saturday. So there was a whole big hullabaloo about that. All right, so first on the stand was Hammond police officer Christopher Gootee, is how I'm hearing people pronounce it. He interviewed Brad Weber about 6 days after the homicides with an FBI agent. When defense attorney Jennifer Auger asked him if Weber went straight home after work, Gootee said he didn't know. So this is the van that supposedly was seen at the scene, at the homicide scene, and that this is the only thing that apparently the perpetrator would know that Richard Allen talked about with his therapist, who was in every single group chat on social media talking about the case and treating him at the same time and giving him antipsychotic drugs, which make him hallucinate, it can cause confusion, can cause all sorts of things. They literally tortured and tried to brainwash this man, tried to break him to say that he did these crimes. And then I think they also tried to potentially have him take his life, or if he lost his life due to the maltreatment that he was receiving in prison, oh well, so what? Now we don't have to prove our case, is what I'm thinking was their thought. Anyways, it's horrible, but that's what once you see some of the reactions from the jurors watching the videos, you're going to see it's like probably one of the most inhumane treatments of a human thus far that we can recall in recent history, especially by our own government. So keep that in mind. So Brad Weber was interviewed those 6 days after the homicides, and Weber is the owner of said van, apparently, and he lives near the crime scene, and apparently his van is what Richard Allen is. That's what the state's theory is that his van is what spooked Richard Allen into not essaying the girls, even though there was some seminal fluid on their vaginal swabs when they did their our kits, the SA kits, to find out if they had been assaulted. So, and we're being lied to. There are a lot of inconsistencies in this investigation. So just be wary of what comes out. So yeah, so Brad Weber says he came straight home after work, but we have reports, the defense has reports of him saying two other different stories. One was he stopped at a shop or something somewhere, and then another one, he stopped at the gas station, something like that. So there's two other stories that he's given that are inconsistent with coming straight home. So the timing is off. So there's something wrong with the state's timeline, is what the defense is trying to point out here. So Ajay, Jennifer Ajay, the defense attorney, says, Max says, she then showed him a report done by FBI Special Agent Adam Pohl to see if it could refresh his memory. This is weird. People were saying this was a really weird moment because usually on the stand, you're like, would it refresh your memory if I show you your deposition from 1982? And then you're like, yes, of course, because I don't remember anything from 1982. And then you look at it, and then they usually take it back, and then they'll be like, well, what did you say in your did you say in your deposition in 18 or 19 1882? Geez. In 1982, did you say that you saw Anna with a knife standing over Lewis's body? Did you say that or not? Like you can go back and impeach them or get them to admit what they did say, and it's supposed to refresh their memory as to what they said. Um, so that's really the point, is you don't have to necessarily refresh their memory, but you got to refresh your memory of what they said, that they, what they said in their depo or whatever. So Gootee looked at the report and still couldn't say if Weber went straight home. So he looked at the report and couldn't even like reiterate what the report said. This part was really weird. Ajay appeared stunned and confused. Gootee stepped down soon after that, so he wasn't on the stand much longer after that. But he wouldn't even admit, like, yes, it says here in this report that I wrote that Brad Weber told me he went straight home, but now he's saying blah blah blah. He wouldn't even admit that. So it was a really awkward moment in the trial where Jennifer Auger was trying to get him to say what he originally had said in his report, and it wasn't. He was playing dumb. It's a trick that law enforcement can do to be like, oh yeah, I don't remember, or no, it wouldn't refresh my memory. All right, moving on. So the questioning was all done to show that Brad Weber was lying when he testified to the prosecution that he did go home straight after work. Whether or not Weber's van was on the trail around 2:30 that afternoon of the homicides has become the central point in this case. So this guy, this Brad Weber, is important, whether he was coming home at that time or not, 2:30. And was that what spooked, supposedly, according to the state's theory, our Richard Allen was going to take these girls and SA them, and he got spooked because of this van. So then they crossed the creek, and somehow Abby ends up with Libby's clothes. Libby ends up naked. He takes both their lives by slashing their throats, and then he throws a bunch of sticks on them. That's the state's theory. Which, if you're spooked, why would you do any of that? It just doesn't make sense. All right, so next up was Dr. Deanna Dwenger. Dwenger? Dr. Deanna DeWagner. Sure, we'll go with that. All right, so who is the Director of Behavioral Health at the Indiana Department of Corrections? She said that she had concerns about the 24/7 video surveillance of Mr. Allen and recommended the cameras be removed, but it never happened. So this woman who works at the prison said, remove the cameras, and they're like, nah, we're not going to do that. She testified that solitary confinement is not good for mental health, which we know that. The law is no more than 30 days for someone with mental health issues, but really, they probably shouldn't even be in there that long because studies show more than 15 days, you will start to show signs, not necessarily guaranteed, but after 15 days, a person who doesn't experience any kind of mental health disorders might start to feel isolation, anxiety, depression, all sorts of emotions that they didn't know they had. Because it's terrifying and it's isolating, and you lose your whole world. You lose all your connections outside. They just throw him in this prison, a prison. This guy has not been convicted of anything, and they throw him in a prison. He's supposed to stay in a county jail and near his lawyers, but no, they keep moving him around to places even further and further out. And they won't even let the lawyers see where he's staying. They won't let the lawyers come in and see his cell and where they're holding him in this isolation solitary confinement cell for 13 months or more. I feel like it was more, but we're hearing reports that it was 13, so we'll go with that. All right, so she testified solitary confinement's not good for mental health. You really shouldn't be in there more than 15 days, studies show. But the law or the policy, I don't know if it's a law, but it should be. The policy is they should be in more than 30 days in isolation. She also admitted that the IDOC has policies to make sure that someone who is seriously mentally ill, as Alan, who doesn't continue to decompensate. So when someone has mental health issues as severe as Alan's were, there should have been protocol to prevent him from uh, basically um, getting worse. She said that those policies weren't followed with Allen. So, any policies that they had put in place to prevent situations just like what happened, like torturing an innocent man to try to confess to a crime he didn't commit, I'd say that's pretty stressful situation he's in there. That would the best of men probably wouldn't stand up to all the pressure. And Richard Allen already went in there with issues with anxiety and depression, and he held out for a long time with these people trying to force him to get a confession out of him. All right, so last before lunch began on Friday, during cross, Deputy Prosecutor Diener, sorry, brought up that Dr. Walla thought Alan was feigning his symptoms. So that's fine, but you're talking to someone else. You're talking to this De Wagner person, but Dr. Walla thinks that Alan was faking. Feigning really, I was listening to another podcast, I can't remember who it was, but feigning is not a technical term, but by saying it, it sounds technical. It's not a behavioral science type of term that it doesn't, it's not a diagnosis. Whereas malingering is, where that's kind of like faking for some kind of benefit that you think you're getting out of it. But feigning, faking, it just means the same thing, but they might be saying it just to make it sound more technical and more like a diagnosis, which it isn't. And Dr. Walla has so many problems. We don't even need to go there. We talked about that for when she was on the stand. All right, so she didn't say much outside of that. After this, the video controversy happened. see my other thread, and that's what I talked about, where they went back and forth with the videos as to whether they were going to play them or not because they didn't have the exact timestamp and couldn't verify, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry, they come back and verify what they want. So, all right, so here is the afternoon highlights from um, same guy, Max Lewis. He says, after the video debacle in the morning, the defense called several witnesses when we got back from lunch. First up was Brad Heath, who is a retired exterminator. He was doing a job at a building near the trails on February 13th, 2017. The building is near the old CPS building where the prosecution says Richard Allen parked his car that day. Remember, he had a 2016 Ford Focus. The one detective, I think Mullin, came back and said that's the only Ford Focus of that make and model in the entire county, which I find to be ridiculous, but okay. And then there were still like 8 other Ford Focuses, and you can't even tell from the video, the surveillance video, if it is a Ford Focus for sure. So, do we even know that it's a Ford? Yeah, I mean, these detectives looking at these, I mean, some surveillance videos are pretty um, difficult to discern the shapes. Anyways, all right, so he describes seeing a dark blue older car parked. Wait, I skipped a line here. So this, who are we talking about? Brad Heath, this exterminator. He was working at a building nearby. He arrived at the building for a job at 1:46 p.m. and left around 2:06 p.m. Abby and Libby's, oh gosh, when's their video ends or starts right around 2:04, I want to say, the bridge guy video. And at that point they were already at the end of Monon High Bridge, supposedly. He described seeing, okay, a dark blue car that was parked near the end of the trails. So again, another person seeing not a black Ford Focus. Whatever they're describing, it's not a black Ford Focus. He said it just looked out of place, the blue car. He said he believed the car was from the late 80s or early 90s. Remember, we had an individual, I think it was Betsy Blair, who said that the car looked like an old classic car that she knew of that her dad had. So this might track that, this exterminator is now seeing this 80s type 90s car. However, he could not say whether or not other vehicles were parked at the CPS building that day. Next up was David McCain, has walked the trails ever since he was a kid, so he knows these trails well. He says he believes he was on the trails, but sometime between 2 and 4 p.m. on the day of the homicides. He walked to the bridge and took some pictures before walking back. He was interviewed by the FBI, gave over his SIM card, but has never gotten it back. He testified that he heard nothing unusual while on the bridge or the trails. And that's important too because right around the time that he's on the bridge is the same time that Libby's dad, Derek, is around and calling for her and looking for her. And at this point in time, when who is this again? Not Heath, McCain. When this McCain is leaving, David McCain, um, it is probably when Libby's dad is arriving and screaming and looking for Libby and Abby. So the timelines again just seem really off. Something just seems off to me how things are going. But this person, anyways, they didn't hear, I don't think they heard anything. After him, former fire chief Starrett was up. He was helping lead searches in the area of the bridge that day that the girls went missing. Starrett had a lot of trouble remembering almost anything and had to reference his deposition several times. So that's interesting to note that he doesn't remember, even though this was like the biggest case in Delphi. or maybe even Indiana, period. He testified that nobody out there that night saw any clothes in the creek. So this fire chief said he was obviously part of the search, and he said no clothing was found in the creek at that time. So if they're searching around and there's no clothing during their search, but then it's there the next day, when do you think it was placed there? It had to have been after all these people were searching, which means they, the perpetrators and the victims, I believe the victims were taken away from the spot and then they were brought back. It's the only thing that makes sense to me with how the evidence is laid out so far. All right, so he testified that nobody out there that night saw any clothes in the creek. He also said he could hear people searching on the north side of the creek, which is where the girls were found. Again, people were in the area searching all through the night. There's no reason to believe that they just magically left this area alone where the girls were and searched all around and didn't find them. There's no reason to believe that there was something keeping them out of the area to find the girls. So if they were searching and walking around, and this chief says there were people on that side of the creek, he confirmed it. People were looking on that side of the creek, and yet the bodies weren't found there until afternoon the next day, which means they came back to the scene. The only thing. Am I right? Like, do you guys have? I mean, they could have been put somewhere else, like one of the people's property, like Ron Logan or this Heath guy. No, what's his name? Brad Heath or Brad Weber. I mean, Brad Weber, whose truck we've seen, or that Richard Allen saw. It could be, they could have brought them to anybody's homes who lived nearby, kept them there until a certain hour, and when they knew that it was safe to come out and the search would be over, and then did their little ritual, and that was that. And then Brad Holder went and worked out at like 3 in the morning. So why, for the first and only time that he's ever done that in his life, was to go work out at 3 in the morning. He was hopped up on adrenaline from doing what they did. That's my opinion. All right, so next up was Steve Mullin, who is the former Delphi police chief and now is the prosecution's investigator. His testimony started off with defense attorney Andrew Baldwin asking him about missing interviews from early on in the investigation. Mullin admitted that dozens and dozens of interviews were lost forever due to the DVR issue. Again, the original suspects in this case, who had good reason to believe that they were suspects and were found, or at least looked into almost immediately by law enforcement, yeah, all those interviews got taped over, lost forever due to a DVR issue, so they say. Oops, I didn't mean to click on it. Every interview from February 14th, 2017, so the day the girls were found, up until March 21st, 2017, was lost. Mullin also said that interviews from April 28th to June 2nd were lost as well. So who did they bring in then? They brought in somebody else that they might have suspected, or the same people. This is very interesting that we're finding out that there are these interviews and they're all lost in two separate chunks of time, meaning their investigation was totally focused on other people. Richard Allen was never even a blip on the radar until what's her butt decided she just found the file and rechecked it and said, "Oh, maybe we should look at these guys again," even though they were cleared. Because that's what happened. All right, so they were able to recover the video of those interviews, but not the audio. I noticed a couple jurors shaking their heads when this came up. Baldwin then asked about Mullen's recent phone call with Brad Weber, where Mullin says that he asked to speak with him. Oh, what about that? Baldwin asked Mullin made a recent phone call to Brad Weber and asked to speak with him. Mullin did not record that phone call and admitted that he should have. Yeah, you should have. Mullin was trying to talk with Weber about when he came home from work on the day of the homicides and if he drove his, I believe that word is supposed to say van, not fan. Baldwin again brought up the fact that Weber was giving conflicting statements. So he was lying. He had a lot of inconsistencies in what he was saying. So he was looked at twice now by like law or no, not twice by law enforcement. He was looked at by Mullin, but I don't think ever nothing ever came of it. So Baldwin insinuated that Mullin may have given some information to Weber about the van and its ties to Richard Allen's confessions. Baldwin also pointed out that Weber's Sig Sauer gun was not never excluded. So Baldwin pointed out that Brad Weber's gun, so Brad Weber also has a Sig Sauer, which isn't it the same thing that Allen has? But this Brad Weber, who lives close by, he has this gun that would also use the same ammo that was found at the scene, and it's never been excluded. His gun has not been excluded from making those marks. But the only way for Melissa Oberg, the ballistics lady, the only way for her to get it to match Baldwin's gun was if she shot the round. But it's supposed to be an unspent round, which is the most, I mean, shot rounds, fired rounds are difficult to say definitively that they came from one firearm or not. But now we're talking about rounds that were cycled through a gun but not fired, which makes it blows my mind. I just can't wrap my head around all of that. But yes. So he has a Sig Sauer, this Brad Weber, sorry, and the state police lab has not been able to exclude his gun from the bullet found at the scene. Baldwin then asked Mullin how many people he thought were involved in the homicides of Abby and Libby. Mullin said one. Baldwin asked him how long he had thought that, and Mullin said since the arrest of Allen. Remember, for the longest time, they were making it out to be as if there might be multiple suspects. They were looking for multiple faces, even though they were saying it was the same face with the sketches, but they were looking for multiple people. And they even after Allen was arrested, they still said, "We're open for tips, and if you know more information, please let us know." So they were still accepting tips, I think, because they thought that there were more than one person did this, which I do believe that is true. But I don't think Richard Allen had anything to do with it. So, oh, it's going to get loud. Hold on one second. All right, sorry. I don't know what I was saying, but let's move on. All right, so Baldwin then asked about a trail camera that was apparently within 100 to 200 yards of where the girls were found. Mullin says that someone was seen on it on the 14th and possibly the 13th. Baldwin then points Mullin to his deposition where he said someone was seen on the camera on the day that the girls went missing. This is big news. This is new information that we didn't know. There's a trail camera and someone seen walking on it on the day that the girls go missing. So during cross, Mullin said he confirmed Weber drove his van home through phone records, but there was no explanation of that. So apparently Mullin said he confirmed Weber's whereabouts by his phone records, which I don't. Okay. Last up, was former Sheriff Tobe Leazenby. He was sheriff when the homicides happened, but is now a chief deputy. He said that he didn't have a major role in the investigation. Yeah, but that I don't believe that for a second because this was an election year and he was trying to get elected to sheriff. So I think this was part of their plan, his plan to get elected was take down the big bad guy, or at least give the big bad guy a face because we haven't taken him down yet. So he was sheriff when the homicides happened, but is now the chief deputy. He said that he didn't have a major role in the investigation. Baldwin asked him how many people he thought were involved in the homicides, and Tobe said it was initially unknown. At least he's being honest, sort of there. They did not know how many, but they thought it was more than one. Baldwin then asked how many he thought were involved after Allen's arrest. Tobe said one. Baldwin then referenced Tobe's deposition in August of 2023, where he said he believed multiple people were involved, or at least two. And this is stated multiple times in press conferences, in all sorts of statements and things from law enforcement that they believe there's at least two people involved, that they're looking for more than one person. Baldwin asked if anyone else thought that as well. Tobe said he didn't know. Baldwin again referenced Tobe's deposition where he said the current sheriff and the chief investigator, Tony Liggett. Oh, Tony Liggett, sorry. Tony Liggett is the one who was up for sheriff, and he's the current, is he the current sheriff? Yeah, he's the current sheriff. I think he's the one that, sorry, I think he's the one, I get all these names confused. Um, he's the one that had a whole lot to do with putting an innocent man in prison just for an election year. So McClelland barely had any cross-examination for him. That wrapped up the day. That was Friday. Tomorrow we expect to see maybe the videos that the defense wanted to play. ISP Superintendent Carter may, and in fact does take the stand. We'll get to that shortly. I'm going to skip here to Kyla Russell from Wish 8 News. She made an update. This was at the end of the day on Friday. Motions have been ruled on by the dishonorable Judge Gull. So she says, update ruled on by Special Judge Fran Gull. Today is the Delphi homicide trial. Number one, as reported earlier, she denied the defense's motion to include third-party suspects in the evidence presented to the jury. She is not letting Richard Allen defend himself. It is his constitutional right to defend himself, and if that means putting other people in the hot seat, so be it. This includes info on the Odinism, ritualistic Ki-double-Ellings, and Norse pagan religion. So they still cannot mention any of that, which is garbage because the door was opened multiple times for all of these things. And they actually, in the middle of trial, put out two motions to include Odinist talk and the third party stuff because the doors were open multiple times. So they wanted to make sure that it was on the record. So, yeah, she denied it for no effing reason other than she's horrible. Number two, the judge granted a motion for inmate Jesse James to be transported to the courtroom. So I guess that is a witness for the defense. And then another witness, they, I think it's Robert Ives. There's so many names and people in this, can't remember them all. But another witness wanted to join via Zoom the trial, his testimony, because he's with the FBI and he's out of state. So, but guess what? The wonderful Judge Gull denied any witnesses via Zoom because she's just a wicked, evil witch, just like that. So let's move on to Saturday. So this was a wrap up at the end of the day from Defense Diaries, but I wanted to start with it because I thought it was a good wrap up for the whole day. So Saturday court is done. Today was the day. Did I say this was defense diaries? If I didn't, this is defense diaries. So Saturday court is done. Today is the day that the jury viewed 2.5 hours of Richard Allen's confinement conditions. The defense requested that the large monitor in the room be turned away from the gallery as to preserve whatever dignity pretrial detainee Richard Allen may have left after serving 13 months of solitary confinement in the most secure cell in what is considered the harshest prison in the state of Indiana. I didn't know that. Kathy Allen did not attend today. She didn't want to see her loved one, I'm sure, in those conditions. And she did it to spare her husband the dignity of having his wife have to watch her husband being treated like a prisoner of war. ISP Superintendent Doug Carter was called by the defense for a series of 5 questions, including his role in the investigation, his role in removing the FBI from the investigation. Let me repeat that. Doug Carter had a role in removing the FBI from the investigation. He also had a role in demanding that the FBI turn over all documentation relating to the investigation. In August of 2021, it appears they wanted to keep this investigation in-house with Indiana State Police. If you want to get to the truth and the bottom of things, why are you turning the FBI away? I told you something was fishy, and somewhere along the line, somebody turned the FBI away. Here's where. Here's where he did it. And it was Doug Carter all along. And we've seen him. He's the blonde hair, blue eyed guy, and he's always in his stiff suit. Yeah, we don't like Doug Carter. All right, so up next, this is from Luke Nicholas, Curious Luke 93X on X. And he says, this is Saturday, day 14 of trial. He says, this morning's session per press pool notes. Actually, really horrifying reading the jurors' reactions. So Richard Allen enters court around 8:46 a.m. He's seen mouthing words to his family. Wife Kathy not present. So she had a heads up that they were going to be playing these videos and didn't want to be in attendance. Not that she doesn't support her husband, just that she's, like they said, sparing him the dignity of having to see that. Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter was present in his stiff uniform. Debate over Westville Correctional Facility videos of Allen. Defense Brad Rosie requests jury-only viewing due to the explicit content, citing dignity of multiple people involved. There are portions of the video where Richard Allen is nude. So I believe that's probably what they're referring to, but I don't know the multiple people. Prosecution, Nick McLeland objects to the video's admission. He does not want these coming in because it shows how badly he was treated. And it also proves that his mental condition was not well enough to make a informed confession voluntarily. He was not voluntary. So Judge Gull actually did something good for the defense in this, and she overruled the objection by the prosecution and allows the videos to be shown to the jury only. So they adjusted the screen so it was only facing the jury, and even the people in the gallery were not able to view the video. So they were saving him some dignity there. The defense witness, Max Baker, an IU graduate defense intern recalled, testified Friday about compiling the videos. So somebody came up and said, yes, I compiled these videos. I think this might be their extra person in the courtroom with them, their audiovisual guy. Not really sure. He prepared another flash drive of video content Saturday morning, he says. Video evidence that was probably because he had to relabel things and give it the right timestamps and everything so they could verify when it was. So Judge Gull would let it come in. So video evidence presented, there were two exhibits, camcorder videos, and a master sheet, including a contains nudity category. Videos admitted despite prosecution objection. Prosecution had to reposition themselves to view the screen. The screen was positioned away from the public. Richard Allen could not see the videos, so that's probably better than having to remember that, because hopefully a lot of it is forgotten from his mind. Hopefully. The brain does some miraculous things to survive, and sometimes that means you have to forget things. Content of video from April 2023. There were 10 videos shown, including one which was nearly 30 minutes long, but it was sped up. Content was not visible to the public. We said that already. Described by defense as depicting Allen's deterioration in prison. Some videos depict Allen fully naked. The jury's reactions. This is what people were talking about because you couldn't see the video, but you could see the jurors and how they reacted. So there's been various reactions observed, including jurors looking aghast, tense, concerned, shocked, disgusted, raised eyebrows, a lot of note taking, lip biting, frowning, sighing. One juror showed a note to another juror. Psychologist juror appeared extremely interested. So we do have a psychologist on the jury, which is going to be a huge benefit, I would think, to Richard Allen. An alternate juror had a sour look on their face. There was a school counselor in the jury who looked shocked, and multiple jurors looked towards Allen during some of the videos, like probably looking at him in pity or like, how could you do that? I don't know. I'm sure there were some really shocking things that they saw. Other notable reactions, Richard Allen looked down at a coffee mug at one point. Libby German's family appeared exasperated. Prosecutor McLeland appeared exhausted and at one point taken aback. Even Prosecutor McLeland was taken aback by what he was seeing. So what does that tell you? And he's been saying this whole time, Gull has been saying this whole time that they've been getting treated so much better than any other. They're treating him better than anyone else at the prison. And as you can tell, that's a big fat lie. Defense attorney Jennifer Auger displayed deep concern, including head in hand, mouth covering, and looking away at different points. Richard Allen's mother left the room after video 9. I'm sure she didn't want to see it. All right, so that is, but I want to read you more. So we got to start here. So that was one individual's take on that. Here is another. This is Wish TV. They have a live blog going during the day, which is great to get recaps. Since we have no video or audio of these court proceedings because of Judge Gull, she wants to keep everything secret, and now we know why. The state has no case. They've railroaded an innocent man, and not only that, but they've tortured him mentally, physically, however they could to try to get some kind of a confession or for him to break and just take his own life. And they firmly believe that the way that they were treating him. All right, so 10:53 a.m. The jury views video of Richard Allen while he's in Westville. So again, we're going to talk about the videos. Richard Allen entered the courtroom at 8:46 a.m. According to News 8's Kyla Russell, she noted that he was mouthing words with his family. His wife, Kathy Allen, wasn't present. Indiana State Police Superintendent Carter was also present in full uniform. The courtroom TV was moved and positioned so no one in the gallery could see, according to Russell. State prosecutor Nick McLeland objected to video of Richard Allen while at Westville, but admitted while defense attorney Brad Rosie requested the video only be shown to the jury for dignity of multiple people involved due to the explicit nature. Russell noted Kathy Allen still hadn't arrived, mentioning that she left court during Friday's session when videos were supposed to be viewed. So she didn't want to see the videos. That was planned. She didn't want to do that. After the jury entered, the defense, I mean, I don't blame her. I wouldn't want to either. That's seeing a loved one in that condition. No, no, thank you. It would just make me hurt for them and make me angry inside, and I don't want to do that. So, after the jury entered, the defense called Max Baker, IU graduate and defense intern, back to the stand. Baker testified Friday that he was able to compile videos of Allen while in Westville and prepared another flash drive of video Saturday morning. The defense shared 2 exhibits, camcorder video, and a master sheet for the video. The master sheet included a contains nudity category. Gull admitted the videos despite objection. The prosecution had to pull up chairs to watch the video. Richard Allen cannot see the videos. The 10 videos were taken during April 2023. Remember, this is when they started giving him the Halidol. And this is when the confession started, all around the same time. What does that tell you? One of the videos, referred to as video number 7, was nearly 30 minutes long, but Rosie sped it up. While watching the videos, Russell noted that one of the jurors raised their brows and looked at Allen. Several jurors were taking notes. The juror with a background as a psychologist appeared extremely interested. So, yeah, so she was definitely paying attention, I'm sure, during these parts and during the therapist's, what's her face? Dr. Walla's account. All right, so Alan looked down at a coffee mug at one point. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like repeat everything. Look, the other guy, Lucas, he did this. He basically reiterated what this report was, but she gives us a little bit more detail. So, all right, so several jurors frowned during video number 7. One juror took notes, wrote something on his notepad, and showed it to the juror next to him. During video number 9, multiple jurors looked toward Allen. The last video was 52 minutes long. Rosie told the jury he would be advancing through certain parts. Defense attorney Jennifer Auger appeared deeply concerned watching video number 10. And at one point, Auger held her head in her hand and covered her mouth during another. Eventually, she looked away. Of the jurors, Russell said one of the alternate jurors wore a sour look while the school counselor appeared shocked. It wasn't clear to the media and public what was on the videos. As the TV faced away from them, the court recessed for a short break. All right, and then we come back from break. Court returned from its recess at 11:05 after the jury entered. The defense recessed. Uh, Max Baker and briefly paused the videos. Sorry, they recessed him, whatever that means, and paused the videos. State prosecutor Nick McLeland later said that he would hold on his cross-examination of Baker until all the videos are watched. Okay, so that might be what it has to do with. The defense then called Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter to testify. Carter has been superintendent for almost 12 years and said his role in Abby and Libby's investigation was a support role. He explained dozens of agencies were involved, including multiple nearby agencies such as the ATF, the FBI, and Homeland Security. You have all these agencies and you couldn't solve it, and you turn them away. Why? Carter said the FBI stopped their involvement in August 2021. Defense Andrew Baldwin showed Carter an email from the FBI, which Carter confirmed to the jury was his decision to release the FBI from the investigation. So it was Carter's decision in an email to say, we no longer need your help. Please see your way out of this investigation. He also requested the FBI return any evidence. Carter was then released from his subpoena. News 8's Kyla Russell noted that Carla was only on the stand for about 20 minutes or 10 minutes. He wasn't on there very long. Hold on, it's going to get loud. All right, sorry. So Carter was only on the stand for 10 minutes. After Carter was released, the courtroom TV was moved and positioned in front of the jury. No one in the public seating area could see the videos played. McLeland renewed his objection. More videos were played in the afternoon. Video number 11 through 15 were taken between May 13th and June 20th of 2023. During video 13, Russell said Baldwin turned away, shaking his head. Three so Baldwin, the defense attorney, turned away, shaking his head. 3 jurors sat uncomfortably during video 14. Defense attorney Jennifer Auger was also seen looking away. Video 15 was 34 minutes long, according to Russell. Multiple jurors took notes, and an alternate juror appeared very surprised and wide-eyed. Baldwin was seen speaking to Richard Allen softly with his arm around him. Allen was shaking his head while also taking notes. Videos ended at 11:50 a.m. Russell said of the videos viewed, 4 contained nudity, while others showed Allen being transported to receive medical care. Upon Rosie's questioning, Max Baker, I thought it was Baker, not Becker. Max Baker said he created a similar spreadsheet for security footage from inside Allen's cell. State prosecutor Nick McClelland later said he would hold on his cross-examination of Baker until all the videos are watched. Court ended just before noon on Saturday, so there's more videos to view. So if videos 1 through 15 that have made everyone that has watched it cringe, if those aren't enough, there's more that are coming on Monday. So that is just fantastic. I mean, not fantastic in that sense, but just awful that there's more videos to show how deteriorated and how neglected Alan was, how mistreated he was. I really do think that they were starving him, depriving him of water. I have heard rumors that they were shutting his water off. Maybe it was one of those situations like if you don't confess to your family, you're not going to get water. And he's already doped up on Halidol, and they can seriously sit there and just repeat over and over again, you did this, you did this. Tell your family that you did. It's really important that you tell your family you did this. And he's doped up on drugs. All they have to do is keep repeating that. And they could get him to believe that. They could brainwash him to believe that he actually did it, which is horrifying. And I think that they've tried with all the drugs and things that they've done to this poor man. I I just don't understand how these things are going on in our country today. This has to stop. He needs to be released. He needs to go home to his family. And Judge Gull and the officers in this need to go down. They need to be held accountable because this is just atrocious behavior. And by the way, they were super willing to do this to an innocent man and treat him that way. I mean, no second thoughts. They probably sleep fine at night, knowing that they've ripped this family apart, broken this innocent man, nearly, and they continue to fight tooth and nail his defense. He's he has a constitutional right to defend himself in this trial, and every step of the way they've made it difficult. Why is that? You got to ask why. And when the people with the power and the guns and the money are controlling everything, then that's a problem because our government is supposed to work for us, not against us. And I hope everybody's waking up and seeing that this is everywhere. It's not just Delphi, It's not just Canton, it's all towns everywhere. I'm not saying everything is as corrupt as this, but I mean, there's massive government secrets in any town, I would imagine. So go dig go dig in your town and find out your town secrets. We can all start some kind of movement where we all start to out each other's um, law enforcement. I don't know what I'm trying to say. You get what I'm saying. You guys will search up my. Never mind. Okay, I don't know. I'm rambling. I will let you guys go. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.